Welcome to another episode of Underrated and Overlooked Podcast. A lot to get into today, man. Talking about semifinals that happened this past week, state championship start for GHSA. Then we'll be getting into some NFL, of course, action there, and also some college football. So yes, without further ado, how you feeling today, Craig?
I'm feeling all right despite the Chiefs losing.
That was a good game, though.
Yes, it
That
was.
was a good game. I actually got some stats on that later on. I think that you're gonna like. I
All
think
right.
they should make it an annual game though between us. I mean, between my Bengals and your Chiefs. That should be annual. I think the same thing with the Bills and Bengals or the Bills and Chiefs. Whatever they need to make those games annual because I think you guys start our best. But we're gonna get into that in a little bit. But let's go ahead and break down some of these. Actually, let's start with semifinal round. Those results. What stood out to you the most?
Yep, Mill Creek, they are really rolling right now. And I think we saw just how good they are at game planning. And then with their offense, I think they're so great at just if a guy's open, they hit them. They don't miss opportunities. Every time they had an opportunity in that first half against Milton, they broke a big play, jumped out to that huge lead. Uh, we weren't even talking about Mikael Wood last week because we were talking about Cam Robinson, their great running attack all season. But I mean, he puts up one of the best playoff performances we've seen this year in the first 13 minutes of the game. So I just thought Mill Creek looked outstanding. That's what jumped out. And then I thought Gainesville's win was absolutely huge. That's a massive accomplishment for them. They were 5-5 last year, didn't even make the playoffs, and now they're rolling like this, just playing with a lot of excitement. And I thought Darius Cannon had another breakout performance. Just his ability to have big returns in that department, or just catching the football and breaking plays in the open field. I think he has really come into his own.
Yeah, that was our actually televised game on Peachtree TV, Gainesville versus Russell. I thought we had the best game in the state. 28-7 lead early for Gainesville. But Roswell just kind of showed the fortitude they have, how they can battle back from adversity. They did it in their win before that in the quarterfinals against Thomas County Central. It was 24-6 lead. They came back and won 42-34. So that's a great group that Chris Pruitt got over there. They continue to, battle back from adversity. So I thought that was a great game. I mean, I thought you could see kind of Roswell building that momentum early with that early, touchdown, but then Darius Kennedy answers it right back off a kickoff return. That kind of almost took the air out of the stadium, almost in a sense. It's like, wow, this is going to really be a game. So, I thought that was big. The Langston Hughes win I thought was huge as well. They won 42-3. Um, you know, they just handled their business. I thought Rome could give them a little bit of a fight. I mean, it was close early, but they ended up pulling away second quarter and they just put their foot on the throttle, and that was it. So Langston Hughes looks like they're on a collision course with the state title. They got Gainesville. That'll be an interesting matchup. They will break it down in a second. I thought the Carrollton win was big against Colquitt. I thought going down there in Moultrie, kind of interested to see how the freshman quarterback will play. But he answered the bell. He answered the call. The 15-year-old, obviously, he got star power. I mean, it's why he's one of the heavily touted recruits in his class in 2026. So, I mean, he's showing that he can play. And as you mentioned, Craig, Bryce Hicks is the X factor. He is. In their win against Walton, he had 5 touchdowns. He really balled out. And then, I think in their last one, he played good as well. So he's underrated, but he does a lot of things well. He plays corner, catch the ball in the backfield, can run it really well. So he does a lot of things well for them.
It's so interesting with Carrollton. You have Joey King, the head coach. I mean, I covered him when he was at Cartersville all those years. He started Trevor Lawrence as a freshman.
Wow.
They had instant success. I think we're seeing a similar situation here. You have Julian Lewis, the quarterback. Yeah, they have a ton of talent around him. Bryce Hicks, Caleb Odom, all those guys. But man, they're really starting to get creative offensively. I think they're playing their best football, and I think you're going to see a just outstanding 4-year career from him. But I want to talk about Hughes real quick. Their win over Rome that put them at 247 points on the season. They need 2 points this round to set the all-time state record, and so that was
Wow.
actually held by Rome. All they needed was 2 more, so that's going to be something really interesting to see. That's they're lighting it up this year for sure. So history will likely be made pretty early in that Gainesville game. I expect it to be high scoring.
Wow. So all they need is really a safety.
Yep.
That's insane. But no, they're I mean, I think they've been putting up their highest game was what 70 points they put up this year. Yeah, I mean the offense is rolling. They got so many weapons: Jaquel Meadowbrooks, Robert Lockhart, JoJo Stone, Prentice Aaron Nolan is showing why he's a stud and why he's a highly touted recruit as well at the quarterback position. So, I mean, they're having a great season, man. I mean, I think that'll be an intriguing matchup. But actually,
And
let's.
what's
Yep,
is it Willoughby JD Willoughby?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
that's the other
had a
player.
huge game as well.
Yeah.
They're stacked.
No, they are, and I think we can go ahead and transition to kind of some of these matchups. What do you think about the Gainesville versus Langston Hughes matchup? Do you think they have a chance? They're both 14-0.
I think when it comes to coming out with just a mindset to put it all on the line, ball out, play hard. Hughes has that going for him. We've said this is the game they've been playing for all season. They've been outstanding, so it'd be hard to doubt them when clearly they were the team to beat all year. They put themselves in this position. I think they're going to come out and play outstanding. But Gainesville, I mean, they have fight in them. I think defensively, they aren't a team that's going to shut out offenses, but they have guys that can disrupt and come up in key moments. So they just have to keep themselves in the game. It's that simple. Do not let Hughes run away with it. That's what they've done to every single team. Uh, Even if you're able to keep it close, they have just a burst and then it's game over. You aren't going to catch them once they start pulling away. So I just think they're going to need to find big plays. I did like the way they came out against Roswell, but you're just going to have to sustain that for the entire game because Hughes is really going to put it on the line.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they came out hot in that one. They showed they can score in bunches, but I think works to the advantage of them.
What do
Um,
you think about Naeem Cheeks, though? I mean, he's going to have a really big game as well. I mean, I think he's a great back.
yeah, they're gonna have to find some way to get the ball out to him in space. Seeing if he can. He's very elusive. Like when he catches the ball, he doesn't go down from one tackle. It takes usually a multiple. He's really good with his cuts. He really gets hits the hole hard. He really gets downfield quick. So I think he got to have a big game in this one. I think it would just be interesting to see, you know, can they get enough stops defensively? I mean, you're going against, like you said, a historic offense. I feel like Hughes, if it came down to it, they could get some stops. We saw Roswell even tighten up. They only allowed 7 points the rest of the game after that
Yep.
28-point burst. So I feel like if Roswell could get the stops, I know pretty sure that Langston Hughes can. But the question is, can Gainesville slow down that high-powered attack? That's my biggest question. I feel like they can go down and get some scores. Obviously, of course, for Gainesville, Darius Cannon, Trey Reese, they got the playmakers and everything. But the question is, can they slow down the Langston Hughes offense? Because once they get hot and rolling, they're tough to beat.
Yeah, they are. Prentice Aaron Nolan has been so amazing this year. He's not turning the ball over. I think he was like 21 of 24 last round. I mean, you're putting up that numbers. You aren't going to lose any game. But I think if Gainesville is able to keep it within 10 points, we'll see an incredible just football game in terms of just the talent and big play making ability. If they can keep it that close, then they're really, I think it will be a credit to them coming out and giving their best effort because no one has been able to do it.
I agree. Now let's move to 7A. Got Mill Creek, and then you got Carrollton. I mean, I think this is a good matchup. Carrollton, they move up to 7A has been successfully undefeated. Mill Creek just the one lost to Buford all year long, but I mean, they just look like a buzzsaw. I mean, Jamal Anderson, Caleb Downs, um, on the defensive line, they're really good. It seemed like they would last week. They was bringing a lot of pressures. They was making Luke Nickel uncomfortable. He was getting the ball out of his hands quick. I think that stuff like that is important, especially when you plan in kind of quarterback they're about to play now. I think they're going to have to kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, Mill Creek has an outstanding secondary. The guys up front are extremely experienced, and yeah, they are going to be lined up, and they have a game plan. They have the experience. I was trying to get Coach Lovelady on the show this week, and he was just like, "I'm so busy. The analytics and what he's talking about is just getting the buses there on time. That's just their mindset all around is preparation. They map out every situation, whether it's when they're going to meet, the down and distance, the communication within the coaching staff and the players. They're such a just smart, high football IQ team that it's really hard to catch them off guard. That's what Carrollton's going to have to do. And you just saw it with how they started against Milton offensively. They looked really comfortable. Hayden Clark was absolutely balling out, 8 of 9, like 150 yards in the first quarter, pretty much. And so I just think they're going to come out clicking, but it's just going to be up to Carrollton. It's going to be Bryce Hicks. They got creative with him last week too. He threw a jump pass touchdown. It's going to take that type of creativity, aggressiveness, and you're going to have to probably gamble and go for some fourth downs. I think we're going to see that throughout championship weekend.
Yeah, I definitely think so. That creativity is going to loom large. You saw once Mill Creek gets an advantage and they're up, they're kind of hard to stop. I think that game they were up 28-0 at one point, and they hadn't even ran the ball like that. It was like three touchdowns, and I think Hayden Clark had a touchdown in there too. So, I mean, they're a great team. I think low key this is going to be one of the better matchups in the state championship. It'll be interesting to see if it's kind of a back and forth game, kind of like what we seen early in the year with Mill Creek when they played Walton. Just, back and forth, both teams throwing haymakers, or will it be kind of a defensive game? I think that'll be interesting to see. Can Carrollton hang? But that's 7A, 5A. We got Warner Robins, and I think Ware County, right?
Yes.
So that one, what stands out to you?
So Warner Robins, they've won two straight. They've won two straight. This is actually going to be their sixth straight finals appearance. So before that, they lost like three heartbreakers in a row in the finals. They're on an extremely impressive run though, and this year we saw it too. They had the slow start. When they get going, and I kind of see that championship form coming back. They were so young; they had to replace all those players. They have a really good football team that is going to be playing with a lot of confidence, especially with what they went through earlier. I think with Ware County, there's there's a lot to say about them, but I think the biggest thing for them is they've been to the state championship three times before and they've never won it. So can they break that? That's going to be a huge question. And can they break that against a team that has been there 6 straight years? It's like that's going to be really tough to do, but they are undefeated. They're playing outstanding. They've played a bunch of great teams this season. They came out of a absolutely loaded region. So I think 5A has been wide open. I expect an outstanding game. I really do. I think we've seen it throughout the playoffs, whether it's the overtime win that Warner Robins had over Creekside. There's been some really good games in 5A. I think they're both battle tested. I just expect it to be really close. I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good one too. We were able to get on Marquise Westbrook on our post game show. If you guys haven't seen that, definitely go check that out on our YouTube page from Friday. He was stoked, and it's really interesting to kind of find out from Coach how many starters they replaced and kind of the new guys they had coming in, starting a new role. So I thought that was really intriguing. But they've handled it well, and it's a team that's not going back down, facing adversity early in that Creekside game, but went all the way to overtime and won it all. And then they really stifled a really good Cartersville team, 35-10. I mean, that's a team that obviously is a historic program. They are a team that always, sets their eyes kind of on state. So for them to kind of shut down that really good offense, I thought was really intriguing as well. But let's move to 4A. Benedictine and kind of Cedar Town. Cedar Town, we know what they do. Their program is really known, for strength and conditioning. Their coach, they got, a really elite runner in the NFL right now, Nick Chubb. Harlem Diamond is really good. I think they rushed for 442 yards in their game previous to this one. They're just really good running the football. I mean, they don't really put a lot on Reese Tanner. I think the other game he might have completed one or two passes, but when you have a dominant running attack and not just from Diamond, but the good offensive line, the other running backs that come in and kind of spell him. So you talked to Benedictine coach. What kind of intel did you get from him? What do you think they need to do to kind of slow down that rushing attack?
Yeah, so with Cedar Town, they have a host of backs, but it's going to be Patrick Garner. He's been a multi-year starter, and then Harlem Diamond. He's the touchdown maker. He's leading them in both departments, receiving and running the ball. He's their top playmaker. What Benedictine's going to have to do is they're going to have to win it on the defensive line with that size. Coach Britt, Danny Britt there at Benedictine, he was naming some names of guys that have stepped up on that defensive front. They have a huge nose tackle. He's 5'11", 300 pounds. They got some size at the defensive end position. They just have to win this physically because if you let this Cedartown offense bring up these second and shorts, third and shorts, they're going to take shots. They're going to hit you with that wing tee, the triple option. I mean, they have so many ways of just finding gaps, getting positive yards. They don't lose yards on carries. So you're just going to have to fill the gaps, let your linebackers do their job, and then just in the secondary, you're going to have to tackle. They're not only going to have to tackle, but then obviously watch for Harlem Diamond to come out there, Patrick Gardner to come out there and make plays in the passing game. So it is a contrast of styles, but what Coach Britt was saying is they faced Whitewater in the first round, who also runs the wing tee triple option. That was a tough matchup. Whitewater was a really good team this year. So they have seen it before, and I do like the way they played defensively last week against Troop with Teo Todd. He's a just dangerous playmaker, and they were able to really shut them down early. They ended up getting the late touchdowns, but the defense definitely has been coming out to play. And you look at their only losses this season, it's to Christopher Columbus, one of the best teams in Florida, and then they lost 14-10 to Ware County. So they're a really good football team, and we'll get to the upset picks later. But I think that might be one of them for me.
And for in your opinion, Craig, how big do you think it is for teams that play teams that are kind of similar to teams early in the season that already like say for example a Benedictine playing a team that's run dominant. Let's say just for example, just throwing it out there like a Cedar Grove, like playing those teams early in the season, so you kind of already know and you're prepared. So then when you play a team like a Cedar Town or another run dominant team, you already know what's going to happen. How important is that?
I think it's especially important, but when you're going up against a Cedartown team, because it's not just going to be the one thing where it's like, okay, we've seen this before. You've seen this before, but this Cedartown team is different. They are so strong and physical. So now you add that to it. It's like, okay, well, we know how to stop this, but now we need to focus on winning the game physically. And that's all he was saying. He said this is going to be a real football game. It's not going to be one of these passes outside. It's going to be clashing in the pretty much every play. I mean, they're just going to go at it
Yep.
in terms of the physical standpoint. So I think seeing it before, it allows you to play faster and just focus on finding the football. I think it's going to be outstanding. Benedictine, they're the real deal. They've not lost within 4A since the 2020 semis to Jefferson,
Wow.
and they've just been rolling. And then, yeah, Cedartown, they had a big comeback win over Bainbridge. They hadn't been tested too much before that. And then the win over North Oconee, I mean, that just shows they won that game. It wasn't their biggest rushing game. I think they're averaging 320. They only had about 160, but they went to Harlem Diamond when they needed to. He showed up and made the big play. So I think the key is just going to be able to stopping Harlem Diamond. They've got to tackle well in the open field, and it's just going to be fun to watch. I
Yeah.
like the contrast of styles in this game.
Yeah, me too. I definitely do. I think it'll be interesting to see, can Benedictine slow them down and can they get it going offensively? Can they be challenged on too? But let's move to 3A. I mean, Cedar Grove, Sandy Creek. Will this region foe upset them? I mean, got to be honest, probably one of the better regions in probably the state. I mean, out there in 3A in my opinion. I mean, Cedar Grove, Sandy Creek, Carver, Atlanta. Sandy Creek is here this year instead of Carver, Atlanta. Can Cedar Grove go back to back?
I think Cedar Grove will definitely be the favorite. It's just, I said it on the show on Friday. I think Cedar Grove has a defense that, in terms of third down defense, they are just built for that. They're so good up front. They're disciplined. They're going to get after you. They aren't going to over pursue. Your quarterback's not going to just be able to easily take off and scramble. We did see Hayden Clark do that in the Mill Creek one, but I think they've cleaned that up. That's something that they probably didn't game plan for, and frankly, no one has against Mill Creek because Hayden Clark's been adding that speed to his game. That's something new. Probably didn't see it in the game planning, but once Cedar Grove gets you in third down, good luck. And I think the key for Sandy Creek will be to be aggressive and go for it on fourth down. When you look at the Carver Atlanta game, Carver was up 8-0. Carver was up 8-7 heading into the second quarter. Sandy Creek went for it in no man's territory on a 4th and 12, produced a touchdown, and then ran away with the game. And that's the aggressive mindset offensively they're going to have. If Cedar Grove gets comfortable and they know you're going to just go three and out and not try to pressure them and throw just like new looks offensively and try to keep them on the field, sustain drives, it's going to be really tough for them. But I do expect Sandy Creek to be aggressive. We saw it in the last round. And then defensively, I think Sandy Creek has had some good moments. They got ball hawks in the secondary. I was impressed with how they limited Stevens County earlier in the playoffs. I think it's going to be a good game. I just think the key will be for Sandy Creek to stay aggressive.
Yes, I definitely agree. I mean, if you're up in that game, you got to keep your foot on the gas pedal. We see a lot with NFL games too. I mean, just don't want to get the ball back to that offense or that certain quarterback. So yeah, I think it'll be crucial for Sandy Creek to keep your foot on the gas pedal, even if it's a 4th and short, and you're on the goal line or you in the red zone. I mean, you want to get those points. I mean, you might think, okay, go up 3-0, but it's going to be touchdowns to be Cedar Grove. It's not going to be
Yeah,
field goals. So
and I mean they've already played each other, so
yep,
I think that's just going to make the game better. It's
yep,
like they aren't going to surprise each other. They
nope,
they know who's lining up who. They know who's the big playmakers. They know who to look for on third down,
yep.
what to do. So I think that just makes the matchup even more intriguing.
Yep. And then far as two-way final, kind of that one, what really stands out to you?
Yeah, Fitzgerald, the defending champs. Thompson is new to Class 2A. They've had just their last 2 wins. I feel like it's been the big play that has helped them get over the edge. They have the 2 kickoff returns in the fourth quarter against South Atlanta. They broke out big plays once again in the win over Appling County, who is a great defensive team. I just think it's going to be Thompson's big play ability against a Fitzgerald team that's just outstanding defensively and wants to kind of keep it low scoring and grind it out. So if Thompson can come out and spark the big plays, they'll win this game.
Right. And then obviously we got the last two, Division
Yeah.
One, Division Two, Bowden versus Swainsboro? No,
Sly County.
Sly County. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you got it
Yeah,
right.
I got it right
You got it
finally.
right. So Bowden versus Sly County. What do you think about that matchup?
Things will be really good. Bowden has their 2 playmakers. I forgot their name, but these guys basically do it all. They're seniors. I think it's McDaniel. No, McRoberts. McRoberts. He had 2 touchdowns last game and 2 interceptions. So when you get to the small Class A public schools, that's usually what you have. It's a great team that's been playing together, but you just got like these 2 guys that are just clearly the workhorses and the leaders of that team. You're going to see that, and then Swainsboro, they're more of a passing team, and then defensively they've come up with a ton of interceptions. Sorry, not Swainsboro, Schley County, and then their quarterback, he is leading that classification in passing this year, about 2,500 yards. So this is the first time that Schley County's ever been in the state championship. Bowden's looking for their first title in a long time. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup and definitely different styles. Schley County's passing attack and offense, and then Bowden's just 2 big playmakers that are going to be kind of playing that Clay Hyatt, Whit Weeks role.
Yep. And then the last one, my mistake, guys, Swainsboro versus Prince Avenue Christian.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing to see in this one is going to be what you broke in your preview and what Coach Vandergrift said. Bailey Stockton, their top playmaker, he's missed the last 2 games with a broken collarbone, and Coach Vandergrift said he's going to take reps in this game. So I don't know. I wouldn't expect it to be like a decoy thing. I think he's legitimately going to play, and I just think putting him on the field that might. First of all, it's automatically going to motivate his teammates to see him back out there, but I think that could make a difference in the game. He's special, and I think if he obviously won't be at 100% with a broken collarbone, but if he gets some catches and then gets down or just tries to stretch the field out, he is a special playmaker. So I'm excited to see that. We might witness a kind of heroic effort by Bailey Stockton to get his team over the edge. They did lose in the championship last year. They were super young. And then Aaron Philo, he's racking up the offers. He's got over 4,000 passing yards this year. That's how much they air it out. So I think these last 2 weeks without Bailey, they've been able to look at kind of what they have offensively without him. Then they'll try to bring him back into the picture, whether it's for a couple plays or multiple plays. I don't think it matters because they were able to really battle without him these last 2 weeks. And I just think we'll see a good game in that one. But Swainsboro, they're coming off a key win over Irvine County that they had to get that game-winning drive and then last-second field goal. So that's a gutsy win for them as well. So I think they both have had some tough, grinded-out games after really blowing out opponents early on in the season. I think it's going to be, once again, another good contrast to styles.
Yeah, Aaron Fowler has surpassed 8,000 yards for his career. He's having a phenomenal season. They have 3 1,000-yard receivers. Prince Avenue Christian does. Swainsboro, they came back, beat Irvine County. Tough game for them. but able to kind of get the victory. I think we're gonna have a really good matchup between the two. And then yeah, for Bailey Stockton even try to come back after having a broken collarbone says a lot to his mental fortitude and just him battling back from injury. I mean, putting it all on the line for your team so they can host the state title. It shows how much it means to him and how much it means to his team. So I think that's gonna be a good one. But let's move to our final segment of high school football upset picks. Man, what you got this week?
So in terms of the Maxwell projections, I think Cedartown is a favorite. I do think Benedictine might be able to come out and get a win. They're such a good football team. They've been here before. Zyquan Bryant, uh, he's the one going to Minnesota. He can move around. He was playing running back earlier in the season. Now he's gone strictly to defense, but you might see him go back on that offensive side of the ball. He's a great playmaker. So I think Benedictine kind of moving some of their players around, they might be able to get things going. And then got to say, I think Ware County is a favorite, so I got to go with Warner Robins in that one. I think they might have that state championship magic. I am picking Mill Creek. I am picking Hughes, and then in 3A, I'm picking Cedar Grove.
So not too many, huh?
No.
Rolling with the gut. Okay. No, I usually have a bunch of upset picks, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Carrollton works some magic. I mean, like I said, that would be a historic season for Julian Lewis to do that as a freshman. Obviously, you can't do it alone. He's not a one man band. They got a really good defense too, and then Bryce Hicks and Caleb Odom on the outside. But I wouldn't be shocked if they came in there. Well, I'm not predicting them to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win and beat Mill Creek. But I think that'll be a good game. I got Hughes in 6A, 5A. I think Warner Robins, might be able to pull off that upset there. So I would agree with you there. 4A, I'm kind of leaning towards Benedictine. I like Cedartown. I like what they're doing there, but I think Benedictine's gonna come in here ready to play. They've already played kind of that kind of run type of team. So I think they're gonna kind of come out there with victory. Cedar Grove, I gotta roll with them. They play too much of an upper echelon schedule and competition for me not to believe they could do it 2 years in a row. And what Coach John Adams is doing is incredible. He told us kind of the philosophy and mindset when he came on our show, our post game show Friday, and I think he gets it. I think he understands what he needs to do in order to kind of have his team success. So I'm gonna roll with them. Fitzgerald Thompson upset at South Atlanta early this year,
Yep.
so I wouldn't be surprised if they won that. Thompson's having a phenomenal season, and then Prince Avenue Christian Swainsboro. I think that'll be a good game. Gonna roll Prince Avenue Christian and win that one, and then Bowden and Schlatt County. I don't know. That's one's kind of a toss up. I'm gonna have to look at that one a little bit more, but that's what I think.
Yeah, in 2A, I wouldn't be surprised if Thompson's able to get some big plays late. I do think Fitzgerald's going to win though. They've had just some big impressive playoff wins. Their defense is outstanding. I mean, they held Rockmart to like 10 points in the first round. They've had some overtime wins as well. So I think they've been in this position, and they were young last year and pulled it off. So I think they're better this season. With Prince Avenue Christian, I got to go with them. They're going to want to kind of avenge last year's loss. They've been eyeing the state championship. He was really confident. He's like, yeah, we did expect to be here this year because we made it there last year with a young team. We kind of expected to be back in this, so they've been preparing for it. And then, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Schley County comes out and gets a win, but I've been picking Bowden all year long. I think just they're big senior playmakers and just what it has meant for this program. And then I don't want to say their class has gotten easier because I mean, it's still talented, but when you have Irwin County going up to Class A Division One, it has opened up a bit. So I do think Bowden has a chance to take advantage of that and win the title this year.
Yeah, definitely. And guys, we're gonna leave it there. We're gonna transition to our other topics. Big stuff to get into. Some college football. Craig was nearly right here. He called it last week. If you didn't see that episode, definitely go check that out. He called the top four teams he had. He said Georgia. He said Michigan. He said 3 Ohio State, and I think he said 4 Bama. So that was his top teams. Bama nearly made it. But
one off.
it was one off. But let's react. So number 1 Georgia, 2 is Michigan, 3 is going to be TCU, and then 4 is going to be Ohio State. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I just think it was funny that was the conversation everyone was having on Saturday and Sunday. Is Bama going to get in? I'm watching the the Michigan Purdue game, you got Nick Saban coming on talking about his resume. Oh, if you look at it, we were up this many minutes this season and only down this many minutes. I'm like, what is happening? Is this really about to go down? But in the end, you know what? I I would have put, since Michigan did look so good against Purdue, I probably would have put Ohio State number 3. But
That's how I felt. I
yeah,
felt the same way. I would have put Ohio State number 3. I like Michigan didn't just dominate their conference. I know it was a bad loss. I mean, it was a rivalry. I mean, that looks ugly losing at home, but I would have put them 3. Of course, TCU did battle back in that game against Kansas
yeah,
State, and they was nearly there at the end. They forced overtime, but Max Duggan. Let's say this: Max Duggan put it all out on the line for his team in that game. So shout out to him. I think he's a Heisman finalist as well. But I mean, you seeing how Michigan's playing, and I thought, like I said in that game, Ryan Day just coached scared to me, you know. But
yeah.
I agree with you. I'd have put Ohio State 3.
But you had to put them at 4 because you don't want Michigan and Ohio State playing pretty much back to back. So I think
That makes sense.
that's probably why they did it. But I mean, I wasn't. I don't know. I wanted to kind of see Alabama just because it's not that I wanted to just the chaos. I have nothing against TCU. I just think it would have been more interesting. Um, at this point, I think everyone's just waiting to see Georgia kind of, can they be challenged at all? They're playing outstanding.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't see a potential like national championship game that's just going to be, oh, this is the best matchup ever. I think if they didn't even have a playoff this year, and if it was just going to be Georgia and Michigan for the national championship, it might even have been more exciting. But it should be interesting. Anything can happen. Um, but yeah, I just thought it was interesting to see them go down and then USC blow it. You called that. You said they always do.
I always do.
And then just the cockiness or the attitude, the F Utah stuff. It's just like, come
And then you
on.
painted it on your nails.
Yeah.
Why?
What? I've never seen anyone paint things on their nails like that.
I didn't understand that. I mean, I get it, but then it was like you lost some earlier this year. I mean, it's cool if you thought that. If you said that after the game, okay, cool, whatever. Screw,
But on your fingernails is
come
so
on. For
random.
what? Why? And then they were up in the game 17-3, and then they blow it, and then the offense just got hot for Utah, and they just started going on these scoring drives. But yeah, I didn't
That's
understand that.
fake confidence. When you're putting that on your hands on a team that had already beaten you that season, that's just like faking it. It's like, no, go out there and beat them. Then you can say that. It's like, yeah, I thought that was an L. He took an L on
A
that
big L.
one.
A big L on
Yeah,
that
it's like
one.
you just became a meme, dude. Like you put it out there, everyone's talking about it, and then
Yep.
you guys end up blowing your chance to appear in the playoffs. So that was a rough one for them. Um, but I was impressed with Georgia. What did you think of that first special teams touchdown? I
I
just thought
mean, I
that
thought it
was
was freaking brilliant. I mean, they just stood around like, "Oh, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening." Okay, start running. Start running.
yeah,
Start running. I mean, I thought. I mean, it's hilarious. Like that stuff. That is. I thought was incredible. I mean, that was heads up play by them, kind of to sell it, and then it's to kind of start off the game like that. I thought was big in their favor. And I mean, Stetson Bennett played another good game. He had
yeah.
4 touchdowns over 200-300 yards. He's a Heisman finalist, so happy for him in that program. I mean, Kendall Milton's been running the ball well. Like I said, the two studs that got a tight end, Darnell Washington, Mark Bowers, Ladd McConkey's been having a good year. I mean, like I said, the big question is, can anybody challenge them? I will say this, though, really quick, just to preview the matchup. I do like the matchup between them and Ohio State. I think people are sleeping on that matchup. I know Ohio State looked terrible in their game, and it sucks. We're going to get into this headline in a second about a Jigba, but I mean, you still got Marvin Harrison, who's I think one of the best receiver I think in college football. You probably put him and maybe Downs from UNC in there, as far as the best receivers. But you got him, you got Mbuka, like they can run the football. So I think they got some superior talent. I think they can go toe to toe with them. But what concerns me is their defense. Their defense got lit up by Michigan. I mean, Michigan has a good team, but they don't have like the kind of talent similar to Georgia, though. I mean, Georgia has a more superior talented team. So, will their defense be able to hold up? Is my biggest question. But I do think it's a good matchup.
Yeah, I just think watching Georgia this year has been really interesting. I mean, they've had some close games or some where they aren't necessarily blowing them off, but man, they've showed up in these big games, and when they've been clicking, they look really strong. I just think the efforts there, they're truly a team this year. It's like they're playing as a team. All these different guys are stepping up. Um, you really don't know what to expect offensively. I mean, you know Stetson is going to be fine. You know he's going to be efficient, but I just think they just have so many different guys getting involved. It's not just like one premier back, one premier receiver. They're really kind of throwing it at defenses, and then we obviously know what Georgia's defense can do. But I thought that play was so funny with LSU because the entire LSU team really just wasn't even paying attention. I feel like he really did know the rules. He's like, okay, like, can I pick this up? But the fact that the LSU people just every player is just like standing there, not even looking at the ball, and then he just picks it up and takes it to the house. It's like, how does that happen in that big game?
I don't know.
It's a blocked field goal. Everyone knows it's a live ball. It's
Yeah,
just like it's crazy.
unexplainable.
But yeah, I thought that play was awesome, and I'm happy for him because I mean, what an epic moment
Yeah.
in the SEC championship for him to house that to get them rolling. I mean, that was special, and we know it has had some tough in the SEC championship recently. That's a big win for them. Uh, Man, a chance to repeat with an undefeated season. I think that's what you were talking about last week. Can Georgia be the new Alabama?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. Can they do it? I mean, again, I think they got a phenomenal team, but I'm telling you one thing. I've been high on Ohio State all year, and the fact that they're in, that worries me a little bit. And I like Ohio State as a team. I think they after that loss, I think they're going to be ready to play when it comes to Georgia December 31st. So I'm telling you, like, don't be surprised if Ohio State comes in there and gives them their best shot, and they kind of get Georgia on their heels. I like Georgia; they're a great team, phenomenal talent all across the board, great secondary, but don't be shocked if they go in there and see their Stroud. I don't know who's going to win Heisman. I think they said it's Caleb Williams who's going to win it, but don't be surprised if you see their Stroud go toe to toe with Stetson Bennett.
And just don't coach scared.
That's the
That's the
thing.
key.
You're in the playoff. Don't coach scared.
Yeah.
But real quick too, the TCU Michigan matchup. What do you think about that?
I like the way Michigan's playing. I got to go with them. I was just impressed again against Purdue. They really handled business. Uh, Never let the foot off the gas. I think they're running the ball well. The defense has been stepping up this season. I just thought they looked great offensively, and yeah, that I mean the recent wins they've had. That's just such a confidence boost for them. I think they feel like they can make history this season after some down years and some uh, tough seasons. I mean, they have things rolling right now, so we will see. I mean, it's a big accomplishment for them to be in this playoff.
I think this would be if they win their first time in the national championship game for it's been a long time. I know they went a couple years ago to the playoff. They just got ramrodded by Georgia. I think that year when they played them. I don't know if you remember that
Yep.
matchup, but yeah, they don't have to play Georgia first. So I think that bodes in their favor. I mean, Michigan should be able to come out here with a win. I'm not sleeping on TCU, but I think they should be able to do enough. You know what I'm saying, to win that game.
Yeah, we'll see. Man, I hope it's a entertaining playoff. I would hate to see it not be, but we'll see. I don't know. I don't know. I think Georgia, they're built differently. That defense, the energy they've been playing with, and I really do think there's just something about these SEC defenses. I compare it like I think it's the Mohs hardness scale with like rocks. It's like a diamond's a 10, granite's this. It's like when you get tackled by that Georgia defense, it's like that's that's marble, that's granite. It's gonna punish you. So I just think they're more physical. And then once the big game comes, watch out. I mean, they're really playing with a lot of confidence, and they don't have that oh we haven't won in 40 years thing hanging over their heads anymore. They've accomplished it before, and I just think they're going to go out there and try to keep this dynasty potentially being built.
We'll see, man. It'll definitely be interesting. But what do you think about Jackson Smith and Jigba kind of foregoing the playoff and actually he's a potential top 10 pick? He's declared he's going to go to the draft. He's been hurt pretty much all season. He got hurt in the first game. He hasn't played really since then. But what do you think about him not even, trying to play in the playoff?
It's interesting. I mean, it's potentially 2 games. It's not just one. We've seen a bunch of players in the past skip a bowl game, but it is interesting. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I think it's a great opportunity, but I also wasn't a potential top 10 draft pick. I think it's something we've seen in recent years. I just don't remember seeing it in a team that's about to potentially compete for a national championship. That's a little odd for me, and it's a receiver. It's not like you're a running back or something. It's like I think you'll be fine. I don't think you'll get injured.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that. That was kind of surprising. I mean, like you said, different before because it was bowl games, and it don't really matter. I mean, obviously it's for the betterment of the school and things like that, but it's different when it's that compared to you're playing for a chance to win a national title. And to be, but forever etch yourself in college football history. I didn't really understand that, but at the same,
Here's my question: do you think he would have still made this decision if Ohio State had beaten Michigan, or do you think once they lost, he thought the season might be over and was looking forward ahead?
no, because it was too quick.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing was this decision when he came out and said he wasn't going to play. This came after they already knew they were in the playoffs.
Okay, so yeah,
So
that answers it.
yeah, so for me it was like now if they didn't get in at all and he was like, okay, I'm not gonna play, that makes sense. If CJ Stroud says, hey, I'm not gonna play, we didn't get in the playoff, but CJ Stroud's gonna play, Marvin Harris is gonna. I don't understand that, but at the same time, I'm not in his shoes, so maybe it's just like, hey, I'm gonna preserve myself for the national. I mean, for the NFL, and I want to make sure I get as high as picks possible. I want to make money, but I mean, at the same time, you're getting NIL deals now, so it's like,
Yeah,
what's the kind of trade off?
yeah. I mean, it
I don't
is
know.
weird, especially if his team ends up winning it. It's like you get a ring, but you didn't contribute in the last games. It's like I don't know. Maybe he's ready to just go to the NFL and ball out. But I mean,
Maybe.
these college playoff games. I mean, that they mean a lot. You're gonna remember that these are your teammates. But I don't know. I'd have to look more into kind of what he said when he was asked about it, and kind of what he's gonna say moving forward. But I guess he's ready to move on.
I guess so. We'll leave that there, but let's get into a topic you really wanted to talk about today. Deion Sanders' speech, kind of his exodus from Jackson State. Do you believe he deserves the criticism? I mean, a lot of people are coming for him because he went to HBCU. He was 26, well, 27-5 as the head coach. He really put them on the map. But I thought you brought up a great point. There's not a lot of exposure. There's not a lot of coverage to HBCUs. One, which you're correct about, and then two, we saw way more of it when Deion kind of went there
100%.
and more games were televised. I don't even remember the last time a SWAC championship was televised on TV. I mean, I can't remember, or when it was, big or anything like that. So, what do you think about that? And what do you think about his speech to the kids at Colorado? And then what do you think about, you know, him kind of going to bringing some of those kids over?
I think what we're witnessing right now is one of the most, I say exciting because it's going to be so different than what we've seen with what are there 50,000 players in the transfer portal right now.
Yeah.
And then he really is kind of leading the way because he just came out and said it.
Yeah.
He came out and said it to his new team. He said it when he was leaving. He said, "I'm bringing guys with me." Factor that into what's going on with all these players from just various top programs. I mean, just loading up the transfer portal, the entire previous system of recruiting is negated. I mean, it doesn't exist anymore. So I think he's kind of leading that charge. He 1,000% brought the spotlight to the HBCUs. In 2016, you can type it in on Google, type in HBCU sacrificial lamb article. That's all the narrative was. Oh, these programs are like getting paid money to play Clemson, but they aren't good enough. And it's just, should they even do it anymore? Every paper writing the same thing. And then what happened? Howard came out, beat UNLV the next year. And it was like, oh man, they can compete. It's like, yeah, you guys never covered their games once. No one even paid attention to it. Deion goes down there. The games start getting televised. He does the 60 minutes thing. I mean, I saw highlights from some of Jackson State's games. The crowds, it was absolutely packed. They're playing music. Deion's dancing on the sidelines. They got Travis Hunter there, the best player. He's balling out. He definitely brought a spotlight. So if you want to criticize him, I think the only fair one would be, hey, I think maybe you might have left prematurely.
Right.
Which, if that's all your criticism is, I'm fine with that because that's something that can be debated. It's like, okay, could you have done more there? But it's like, that's not even what the conversation is. It's just like, he only cares about himself. It's like, well, you guys weren't even talking about HBCU games until he got there. So unless you were covering it, you don't really have room to criticize him. And I think it's more just about changing the entire recruiting process. I think that's something he wants to do. I think that's how he's going to approach things at the next level. And that's just the new reality that we live in with the transfer portal. And he is kind of a brand. I mean, I'll see people just say, "Oh, he's a clown." It's like, what are you talking about? Deion Sanders, the guy that played Major League Baseball, NFL at the same time, the guy that had an outstanding career, even though he was, bouncing around different NFL teams, never really had one he stayed with, but he still was balling out. I mean, Deion Sanders has always been in the spotlight. He's always been just a high energy, high success guy. He's obviously confident. That's what players like. They want to play for that type of coach, that type of leader. They want the spotlight on him. He's going to bring that wherever he goes. And so I just think that it's just an interesting moment to see a coach literally, because we were talking about, you used to not be able to even send direct messages to players during certain months because of recruiting violations. And now we have the transfer portal absolutely loaded. We have Deion saying, "Come with me, I'm coming." It's just a completely different landscape now. And let's just wait and see what he does there. It's like, I'm just not here to criticize him for leaving early or taking players with him. It's just, I thought he brought a spotlight there. If people think he left early, then okay, focus on building it up without him. Like, it's that simple. Like, there's still great football being played. They can still televise the games. They can still recruit players there and try to build it up. To pretend that it just is one guy was going to do it. Oh, without Deion, it's like hope is gone. It's like, no, that's not. I don't think that's the right attitude.
Yeah, I think he accomplished a lot. I think where he gets some of the flack is like, as you mentioned, he just left prematurely. I think they wanted him to stay for a longer tenure there, but they only did like 3 years. I think they were expecting maybe like a 7 to 10 year kind of expectation. And I think, it's hard, like you said, for one man to kind of do it all and kind of put it on the map. But I think Deion was more than capable of actually doing that. He, flipped a 5-star. I think that was huge, flipping Travis from going to Florida State to there. He had a bunch of recruits that wanted to go to Jackson State. So I think too. I mean, he would have made even more history if he was able to, put Jackson State against, maybe against some of the teams, in the FBS. Maybe like a Tennessee or a Vanderbilt or maybe even an Alabama or something like that. But I think he just thought, maybe I've reached my, which is kind of, you could say almost premature, but maybe he thought, okay, I've kind of reached my ceiling here. I want to try where there's another opportunity. And I guess, he saw Colorado as that opportunity. They're 1-11. So it'd be incredible if he can go there, turn around that program, use the transfer portal, use the various resources he has, and he's built already in the industry, and just kind of get players to kind of go there with him. And if they're able to go and compete for, let's say, like a Pac-12 championship, and then in a couple of years when it expands to 12 teams in the playoff, which is going to be in 2024, so not the upcoming season but the following season, if he's able to have them there, I mean, what are you going to be able to say then?
Yeah, and another interesting thing is we were comparing this new like existence with the transfer portal to fantasy football.
Yeah.
That's literally what it's about to be.
Yeah.
The season started with people accusing each other of, "Oh, you recruit more than us. We do things the right way." We're going to see Deion show up there and literally pull guys from all over. And then that's the other thing I hear people saying. They're like, "Oh, these other coaches, Deion screwed because they're going to be so mad when he starts stealing their players. They're coming for him, and it's like, well, that might just be the way things are now. It's like,
Yeah,
seriously, it's
yeah.
like if players aren't happy at certain locations,
They're going to leave.
if you have a good like social media team and people are promoting the players and
More
building a culture
recognition.
there, you're gonna
Yeah,
draw the top guys. It's like it's not just about like forming a recruiting class anymore. It's like it's about making a destination. That's what he's talking about. He
pretty
wants
much.
to create a destination there. He's going to pull players from everywhere. The entire previous recruiting system has been flipped on its head. It's
Yep.
very interesting. And I just think that's what people should be focusing on. It's not just about what he did at Jackson State, what he's going to do at Colorado. It's the fact that everything is different now. We've never seen this. And what's about to happen just with all these different players switching teams, it's going to be really interesting. And I think he is going to build a team of really good players year one. I guarantee you they'll be better than they were last year.
Yeah, for sure. I don't see them going again 1-11. I think he sent a message to the players like we're not going to stand for
Yeah,
mediocrity. We're not going to just stand for you just going through the motions. I think he's trying to set a precedent and just be different with doing it. And everybody has their own approach. So I mean, I think it does suck because I think HBCUs will take a hit in a sense, but I mean, he did what he thought was best for him, and sometimes you got to do that. You got to take the opportunity you think that is best for you, and that's what he thought. And he's bringing his son over, and it looks like he's going to bring Travis over, who said he's coming coach. So, I mean, I'm curious to see next year how it turns out, how they look.
yeah. I think it's all unfolded so quickly
Yeah,
with just the NIL changes and now just this and
yep,
Dion's move. Um, just jump into a program that's struggling and then just saying I'm bringing everyone with me.
yep.
We have never seen that before.
No,
Usually it takes time.
it's unheard
He
of.
did it.
That's the great point. You just said it. Usually, it takes time. You don't usually take people over with you, and even so, that's going to be the question next year. Can How much success can Dion have next season as the head coach? Because, like you said, it's a maturation process. We see it in the NFL. We see it in other. It takes time to build a quality program to be a winning football program. It doesn't just happen like that overnight. So, can Dion have that instantaneous success that he had at Jackson State with Colorado in the first year, or will it take a couple of years for that? What kind of string is the athletic director going to have on him? When does he want to see success? Because now we see a lot of times in the day and age where coaches, if it's not looking good the 1 year, 2 years, they're moving on.
I think it's gonna take a careful selection on who you're gonna bring in because they're gonna have a bunch of options in this transfer portal, and people want to say, "Oh, yeah, it's not how it works. You have to build a team." When you have a guy like Travis Hunter, I mean, it doesn't matter what team he's playing on. He's going to be good. Literally. He
Right.
could be playing corner for this team, receiver for this team. It does not matter. So if you going to have he's got the quarterback, he's got Travis Hunter. You build a pretty good like first string of experienced guys that you have kind of carefully selected to build the vision of a team you want out there on the field, and then you get other guys you might want to develop, I think you can have fast success. And whether it's Dion or any coach that would be in this position, I think the same is true. But with Dion, he is that figure. I mean, people are going to want to play for him. He's completely shaken everything up, and it's going to be really interesting. I mean, I knew the magnitude of what was going on the second I saw his press conferences. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. And my biggest question is how would their lines look offensively and defensively? Because again, that's one part of football. Like you said, you could bring the athletes over, you could bring the studs over, the wide receivers, the corners, but you still need your trenches to perform at a exceptionally high level because that's going to create time for your quarterback. That's going to create lanes for your running backs to run through, create pressure on the quarterback. That's going to stop the run on the other side. So I'd be interested to see who he brings over as far as the offensive line. How quick can they gel together? Because as we see in NFL, college, high school, it takes time for offense to truly gel in the defensive line. So let's see what
Yeah.
happens there.
And one last point, it's like when Travis Hunter flipped from FSU to Jackson State, people felt like that was like a personal sacrifice he made to go play at Jackson State. Now, when people are going to Colorado, that same sacrifice is not there. So you kind of owe the players a promise of what they're going to get out of going there.
Oh,
If they come in off the transfer portal and that you promise them, oh, you're gonna play at right guard for us, and then they end up bringing someone else in and just like giving him the job, it's like that might be something they're gonna have to work out just in terms of building the culture. They are gonna have to be on the same page, but I think that'll be the biggest thing just in terms of building the team together is what promises are you making to these guys that you're inviting over
I agree. Um,
before you've really seen them in person.
I agree. That's a great point by you. It's going to be interesting to see next year. I mean, a lot of eyes going to be on Colorado and what happens over there. I think it'll be a really interesting test to see what happens with that program. But we're going to leave it there for college football as well. We'll obviously get into some more of it next week, previewing kind of detailing the matchups of the college football playoff. But let's go ahead and jump into our last segment of the day, some NFL. So, biggest question, Cowboys blitzed the Colts 54-19. It was 33-0 in the fourth quarter. At this point, if you're the general manager, if you're the coach owner Jim Irsay, do you blow this whole thing up? Do you bring back Jeff Saturday? I mean, this is a team that struggled with Frank Wright. They're struggling now. They had a pretty good start to the season. They beat, or to the tenure of Jeff Saturday. They beat the Raiders. They played Philly really hard and tough. They played Dallas tough at, for a long time in that game. But, they just got blitzed 33-0 in the fourth. So what do you think about that? And is Matt Ryan cooked?
Man, I mean, Matt Ryan is throwing a lot of interceptions. I think we're seeing. I mean, we've always looked at, okay, when's the new generation of quarterbacks going to come replace the Brady's, the Rodgers, the Ryans, all these other guys. I mean, I think this year we have seen them drop off like across the board. There's
Yeah.
been some quarterbacks that are dropping off.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan, that was a tough outing. I mentioned in the previous week, he had a 14 quarterback rating in the first half before they came back and made things interesting. So these aren't getting off to fast starts. They didn't really have a chance against the Cowboys. And then once again, just all the turnovers. They're going to have to rebuild. I think it's even more so than just the coaching staff. I mean, they really got to figure out just a team makeup, a team identity. And then you yeah I think the players matter first though. They have to have a vision for who they want to bring in and what type of team they want to be, because as much as the coach does matter, the fans care about what's on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, really, their identity has always kind of been, um, running the ball with Jonathan Taylor. I feel like they get away from that too much. I feel like they try to air out the ball. I mean, they got some nice pieces there. They got him. They got Mo Ali Cox. They got Jelani. No, that's not. I'm sorry, I'm tripping. All right. It's another tight end they have that's really Jelani Woods. My bad, just came to my mind. I had a brain
Johnny
fart there.
Thurman's on Hughes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
Yeah.
about. Oh man, but yeah, Jelani Woods. A pretty good tight end there. And they got Michael Pittman Jr. They have a pretty good secondary, but it's just like. I thought they did a good job in that game. Like, if the offense could have got anything going, if you look at the first half of that game, like Stephon Gilmore gets an interception, they get multiple sacks, they making Dak Prescott throw errant throws. I mean, but they can never convert. When they got their chances offensively, and I think you got to do that when your defense is balling and kind of doing that. And it's not like I said on the defense. Matt Ryan had 3 interceptions. They had a forced fumble. And they have multiple sacks. I think a sack fumble too. So you cannot turn over the ball that many times and expect to win the game. So I think that's big. They got to go in the draft this year. They need to be aggressive. They need to trade some picks. I don't know what they need to do. They need to leverage a high asset. It might even be Jonathan Taylor. I know he's young, but you're gonna have to leverage a big asset to get in there. They need to get a quarterback. It's time. Like, they have not been right ever since Andrew Luck retired at the quarterback position. Phillip Rivers did a good job in that kind of 2-year stint, getting them to the playoffs, but you could tell he was kind of past his prime. Matt Ryan's past his prime. Carson Wentz, we got him last year, he wasn't it. I mean, it's just time to start over. This is a great draft to do that. I mean, you're gonna have so many players coming out. You're gonna have C.J. Stroud. Possibly, you're probably gonna have Bryce Young. You're gonna have Will Levis. You're gonna have Hendon Hooker. You're probably gonna have Stetson Bennett. Like, you're gonna have some really good quarterbacks come out of this draft. So this is the best draft to really go get that guy, that franchise quarterback. So I think once you get that foundation, you get the franchise quarterback, then obviously you build on your interior offensive line. You get the right coach that wants to implement his philosophy, and you bring him in, and then you bring in the right players, and then you start back from square one.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with Jeff Saturday. I really don't
Yeah,
know what to expect. I wouldn't be surprised if even if they lose out, they're like, nope, we're keeping them.
right.
But I think what you mentioned though about these trades in the draft, it is so important. Who was it that made the trade last year with the Rams? I think it was a first rounder.
I can't remember that
It
one.
might have been the Seahawks or someone. The point is, you make that trade last year with the defending Super Bowl champs, they're having a bust year. That's going to end up being one of the highest picks in the draft. It's like when you're making trades and being aggressive in the draft, things like that can happen.
You're right.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
That is absolutely massive. I forgot who it was, but someone traded with uh, the Rams last year in the draft for a first round pick. And now they're going to potentially get a top 5 pick.
Yeah,
So,
you see it all the time. I mean, you've seen Marquise Brown get traded from the Ravens for a draft pick in the draft last year. I mean, you've seen the Saints move up and get Chris Olave this past season and traded draft picks. I mean, you got to do that. You got to be aggressive sometimes to go get your guy. I mean, I think that's crucial. You know, sometimes you might get the flack. Like when we drafted Jamar Chase, everybody was like, "Oh, you should have got the guy out of Oregon, the tackle." But sometimes you got to get those. And really, I'm gonna say this, Craig, sometimes that top five that has generational players.
yeah.
You know, they don't always pan out or work out, but that top 10, any draft pick you get in there is really good for the most part. So, I mean, you see that all the time. I think that's huge. So we'll see what they end up doing this season, but we got to get into the game of the week. So much happened. I got some viewer ratings. It was the most viewed Week 13 national game in 8 years for CBS. They had 23.751 million viewers for Bengals versus Chiefs. I thought it was an incredible game, back and forth kind of affair. Um, and I want to say this as a Bengals fan. I've seen they got a lot of flack over social media. It's not a cockiness. It's more so like we know the Chiefs are going to be there when it's said and done. We know how difficult they are to beat. We know they are the standard. We know that they have set the foundation of what it's going to be when it comes down to the AFC. And it's just, I don't want to say I don't want to say it's fulfilling, but it's nice when you beat a contender and you kind of they weren't blowout wins. They're going to be back and forth games, but it's nice to beat a contender and to know, hey, okay, we know what it's going to be when we play the Chiefs. We know what we need to do to win the game. So it's a mutual respect. We respect the Chiefs, and we know what they can bring, and we know how good Travis Kelsey is. We know how good Patrick Mahomes is. We know how good Andy Reid is. We know how good Eric Bieniemy is. So we know what that entails. So I thought that game was big, man. We now got a 4-game winning streak. It was not easy. I thought what Craig mentioned last week, just as far as the red zone, that played a huge part. I mean, early in the game, we were able to get a couple stops in the red zone that helped us, and then you guys turned the favor. Third quarter, we could not score. Like we were only getting like field goals, and you mentioned that, and that was such a crucial part of the game. I thought that was big. And then the field goal towards the end, Harrison Busker missed, who's kind of been inconsistent this year, was huge as well. So, when you play the Chiefs, and I tell Craig this all the time, this is why the Chargers lose to them. You cannot give him the ball back with time on the clock. He's that guy. He's it. He's him. Okay? He's going to find a way to go win the game. So, I think we've already know that. I think we've learned that. We learned that when we played you guys for our AFC North title. We didn't want to give you guys the ball back. We wouldn't won the game. We did it again last Sunday or this past Sunday. We knew, okay. Even Burrow said it. Burrow said, the guy they have on the other side, right? We're not trying to give them the ball. We're trying to end the game. So I thought it was an incredible game, back and forth. I told Craig they need to make this an annual game, kind of like how they used to do back in the day, the Colts and the Patriots every time they play, or Denver and the Patriots, because it's what you want to see. Obviously, the audience wants to see it. It went up to 23 million, and they had their highest viewing in 8 years for a Week 13 game. So that shows people are
Mm-hmm.
actually investing into this game. And last thing before I throw it to Craig, I do think it's kind of like a Brady versus a Manning kind of thing. Now, that's not to say they all play similar, but just that rivalry I think that's building. Everybody wants to go Bills, Chiefs, and Allen Mahomes, Allen Mahomes, Allen Mahomes. Okay, y'all are still forgetting like Burrow has kind of went past further than Josh Allen has went. This is why I take him over him. I think he's too mistake prone, in my opinion, Josh Allen. He's an incredible quarterback. He's going to get you there, but let me see him go to a um let me see him go to a Super Bowl. Let me see him beat the Chiefs when it matters the most, when the game's on the line. Haven't seen that from Allen yet. Burrow has already done that. He has that it factor. And for Cincinnati, any Cincinnati fan knows we have never had that at the quarterback position. Boomer Esiason was good, but we never had a guy that get the ball to him, a little time on the clock, he's going to come through. and he reminds me so much of Brady. Not just the. Now I'm not talking about the Super Bowls, but if you go and compare them to really quick, if I throw to you, Craig, go look at their mannerisms. Go look at how they approach the game. Go look at the cerebralness that they both have when they look at the game. Go look how pinpoint accurate they both are when the game's on line. And the thing is, Burrow's not going to wow you with, the physical specimen like Allen does, or kind of just the raw talent that Mahomes is. But he wows you with how cerebral he is with his mind, how accurate he is with the ball, and he has that it factor that don't give him the ball with a little time on the clock.
You mentioned though, he used his eyes so well
Yes.
in the second half.
Yes.
He really did. He played the safety and then just put it right in there
Yep.
with that quick release. So
Yep.
he definitely has that. Couple things. One, it was the Panthers that traded with the Rams, so they're going to get their first round pick. That's crazy.
Interesting.
Then I thought it was funny before this weekend. Some reporter, I'm not going to call her out, but they were asking her, "Hey, what big games are you looking forward to this weekend in the NFL?" She's like, "Oh, I know my stuff." She mentioned all the games except the Chiefs and Bengals. I'm like, how did you miss that one?
Literally.
The biggest game by far. Then you bring up the ratings of it,
Yep.
and that's what I said. The Bengals got off to this slow start last year. Everyone's like, "Oh, they're a flash in the pan."
Yep.
There was a real buzz at the stadium. Everyone saw it. They said it felt like a playoff game. It looked like a playoff game. And then in terms of the quarterback battle, absolutely. These guys are special, not only just because they are unique talents, the leadership, the just what they mean to the cities they play for, how popular they are. I mean, they are superstars. And then also what they accomplished young in their NFL careers. That's even more exciting because they just came in and just started uh, making noise right away. And so the future's bright for both of them. So I definitely would like to see this matchup more often. I thought in terms of the game, though, it's like, as I said, Burrow's eyes at the end, he looked really comfortable. I do think that was Brady esque. He does just look so confident out there, the way he's throwing. And then just thought there were just some crazy plays in that game as well. The Mahomes touchdown that I thought should have been at least challenged or reviewed that made no sense. They literally challenged everything. And then the Kelsey fumble. I mean,
That was
that was a
huge.
crazy play.
That
He
was
had four
huge.
guys on him, literally just trying to rip that ball out, like, and then it
Yep.
finally came out. I mean, what are you gonna do? And you can't even blame that on forward progress because he was still moving,
Yep.
and that was a crazy just play to see. I mean,
Yep.
that was how hard those teams were fighting for it at the end. And then the other thing, the clock, that was so key because I'm sitting there wondering. There's like 450 left, so it was enough time to put Kansas City in that position. What do you want to do? Do you want to try to score fast and leave yourself time in case Cincinnati answers? Or do you want to take it slow and try to give them as little time as possible? But even the Chiefs were scared to give the ball back to Joe Burrow. So they never really made up their mind. And then the Kelsey fumble happens, and then the rest is history. But I just thought it was a really great game. I thought the Bengals were making some really acrobatic and impressive catches. Lots of guys were getting involved, running the ball well as too. The Chiefs' offense was rolling in the third quarter,
It was.
uh, looking really good. So yeah, it was an outstanding game, and that was such a key win for the Bengals because they have a really tough stretch coming up. So I know that meant a lot, especially after the slow start to the season.
Yeah, I thought you brought up a great point, Craig. I don't know if you were able to see the game last night, but I think that indecisiveness that you mentioned was huge because I even seen it last night with Brady. Their team struggled the whole game. They were down like I think it was 16-3. It was like
Mhm.
maybe 5 minutes left in the fourth. But you could tell when they got the ball back, it was 16-10. They weren't going to give the ball back to the Saints. They were going to milk the clock, which is what they were doing. Saints had all three of their timeouts, but they went all the way down to the drive. They were running the football with Fournette, running the Rashad White, and they went all the way down to the end, and they left them 3 seconds literally on the clock. Like that's what you have to do. And I think if the Chiefs would have had some more decision on what they wanted to do, I think they would have thought, okay, hey, let's kind of progress through this. Let's not give the ball back to Burrow. Let's milk the clock all off. And I think that contrast is what you seen what happened with Burrow. It was like we got 3 minutes left. Y'all had all three of your timeouts, so the game was far from over. And I think they just thought, okay, hey, let's run the football, which they did good in that game. But Samaje Perine over 100 yards rushing, and they made the critical throws. Now the game, y'all still could have got the ball back on that 3rd and 11,
which I thought was crazy.
That was insane. I mean, there was pressure coming. He stood in the pockets, took it on the chin, and then for T Higgins to catch that contested catch, you got to resign T. I mean that. I mean over anything. I mean obviously Jamar Chase and obviously Joe Burrow, but you got to resign T. I mean T's that guy. We didn't have him for 4 weeks, Jamar Chase, and he stepped up, week in, week out, and performed brilliantly. And I just thought it was a great game, man. I mean, that's a game you had going forward. You have to every year. I don't care what our schedules are. You have to put that game either in prime time or the 425 window. I don't care. You should have the Chiefs and Bengals playing every year. It's going to bring, as you can see, you said it, the playoff effect it kind of had, how the fans were buzzing. Every year you got to play that game. That's just going to be incredible, those two battling.
I don't know who wouldn't want to watch that one.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was funny. I was watching the game with my mom, and she's like, "Did you see that?" And I was like, "I'm looking at the clock. Like, that's like, what are they going to do? Like, because you couldn't tell. And then it's just, I knew that they had, I just didn't see the Chiefs do that too often to where they didn't look like they knew what they wanted to commit to. But I think it's because they were worried about giving the ball back to Burrow. If they didn't think that he was capable of bringing them back, they wouldn't have froze like that. But they were scared of leaving him too much time, and then ultimately didn't execute. And then, yeah, there's some interesting decisions early, I thought, by Mahomes. I forgot, how did the game end? Not on. The Butker missed field goal. I thought they should have gone for it.
Yeah, that's what I didn't understand that. Like earlier in the game, it might have been second, maybe third quarter. You guys, it was like 4th and 3, 4th and 4. You went for it, and they made
for multiple times. I think we were like 3 of 3 or 4 of 4.
We didn't stop you guys yet. I was like, I mean, that you go for, and it's still like 4 minutes left. I'm like, you want to go down there and get the touchdown,
55 yards,
literally. And I'm going to say this too, Craig. We were fortunate. I mean, obviously we got the win, but we left 14 points on the board. You guys stopped us right before the half. That could have turned the game. Carlos Dunlap, incredible play, and then a drop touchdown pass from Tyler Boyd. Like against the Chiefs, like you got to capitalize on stuff like that. So we are fortunate, to get that win. But
no, literally 14 points off the board.
Literally.
But that play by Carlos Dunlap, I thought he played outstanding. Yeah. I mean, he still has it for sure. Yeah. But it was an interesting play call. It's like it had no chance. You're just gonna leave him unblocked and hope you can beat him. Hope he's like got his eyes inside. Hope he thinks you're gonna run to the left. It's like, dude, you left him wide open. One of the biggest guys on the defensive line. He could play small forward in the NBA. It's like, and you're just gonna let him snatch you. It's like,
I don't understand the call sometimes.
I hate that. When I used to see like sometimes the Falcons would go for it on like a 4th and 1, end up losing 2 yards. I'm like, what? How are you going to lose yards on a 4th and 1?
But it's like you said, why would you go lateral in that situation? Go forward or get the ball to your playmaker. You know what I'm saying? Some of your best players. I would be like,
they were trying to fake counter.
You could have just
standing right there. That's what I'm saying. 6'6" guy.
If you want him to make a decision, then RPO him or do like a fake pitch and come back to the other side and get it to your playmaker. I didn't understand that, but. We'll leave
you have to freeze him somehow.
Yeah, you have to. You got to make a decision. But I thought that was bad. But overall, great game. You got to make it national. And one more question about basically the Bengals and the game. Do you think Joe Burrow's a top 3 quarterback?
In terms of my top 3 favorite, yes. I think he's epic. He's always exciting. Obviously, what he did in college was amazing. I've never seen a team dominate like that. And, he's just a superstar, 100% superstar. So, I mean, I want to see him play. I thought early on, everyone was saying, oh, he's taking too many sacks. He's doing this. He's not getting rid of the ball. It's like, okay, there still might be some things he can improve on. But in terms of just battling through the season, getting them in position to have another run this year, it's like, I mean, he's outstanding. I really, really like Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think he should definitely be in the MVP conversation. Put Mahomes 1, Hurts 2. I would put Burrow 3, Allen 4. Maybe 2 or 5. That's how I would do it if I was to do the MVP. I mean, I still put Mahomes. Man, you guys were on a 4 or 5 game winning streak before that game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys were rolling, and nobody was stopping you guys really defensively. Of course, the red zone wasn't the best in some of those games, but you guys were rolling. Nobody was really even contending with the Chiefs. So, I mean, you don't punish him for a loss like that. Again, that's kind of starting to become one of those games like, okay, this might be a rivalry building kind of thing because it goes back and forth. They're close knit. Like some was like, oh well, they barely won. They only won by 3 points. You're not going to blow out the Chiefs. Like, what do they expect? A win is a win. Like, I don't understand sometimes the pundits like, oh, it's only 3 points. It's the Chiefs. Like, we're not going to just blow them out. It's
And
going to be a close knit game.
people say the same things if the Chiefs win the close game. Oh, we should have won by more. It's like, look, watch the game. The
Literally.
Chiefs have Mahomes at quarterback, and the speed they have in their backfield,
Yep.
they don't line up and, oh, we're gonna run between the tackles. It's like, no, they're out there throwing, and then next thing you know, they hand off the ball, and it's just like straight downhill.
Yep.
They are so fast in that backfield. And then when you factor in how dangerous Mahomes is, Kelsey,
Yep.
all the receivers making plays, I mean, you come away with a close win, you did your job.
That's
Period.
it. You
Yeah.
did your job. Like a win's a win. I don't know what else they'd be expecting, but yeah, I agree. I think he should be an MVP race. I think he's one. I think he's top 5 quarterback, maybe even better than that. But what he's doing is incredible. Again, we've had a tough stretch. We play nothing but winning teams. I think real quick before I transition to this 49ers question, this week's going to tell me a lot about my team. You could say a team having your number, like Green Bay has Cowboys number. San Fran has the Rams number, but the Browns have had our number, and we've struggled with them mightily. We got blown out on Monday night, 32-13, and we looked like we was in trouble. So that game this week is supposed with Deshaun Watson coming back. It's a home game, but that's going to be a big game. I'm curious to see how we're going to come out, and that's going to tell me a lot about our chances this year. If we're able to go in there and beat the Browns, I think it'll say a lot. Now, I know from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, it's the Browns. They're 4-7, doesn't matter, but they've had our number. It's kind of what Brady just did last night. Like the Saints have had his number. He's 1-4. The offense again struggled, but he was able to pull it out and put on a go performance, put his cape on, and lead them to victory. So I want to see, can we do that against the Browns? Can we overcome? And again, Burrow has never beat him in his career, so I think that'll be an interesting test.
Yep. I think with those divisional games, sometimes they get sloppy, whereas you guys knew what to expect with the Chiefs. You're well prepared. It's like in those games, you have kind of a sloppy quarter, things get off your game plan, and then it's like, okay, what's going on? Then it's just, yeah, I've seen those types of games where you might not be playing the best team, but just you're familiar with them, and then things go sour, and it's like, yeah, it's just a crazy game where you're just fighting at the end to try to pull it out. I think last night's Tom Brady win is a perfect example of a sloppy win. So I think the Chiefs win, that was like a playoff, like 2 first-class teams. You guys just don't know what to expect, especially with Deshaun Watson coming back.
No, you don't. So we'll find out about that one, but I'll leave that there. Let's talk about Brock Purdy. Jimmy Garoppolo's out for the season with a broken left foot. So the 49ers are now down to their 3rd quarterback. Some people have been linking him ever since the release of Baker Mayfield. He might go there. What do you think the 49ers should do? Should they stay with Brock Purdy or should they pursue Baker Mayfield? And, can he get them, if they stick with Brock Purdy, can he get them to where they want to go?
Well, there's any silver lining with that. Buffalo went down early in the game. So it wasn't like you guys have built some lead. He comes in later. I mean, he had to go out there early. But I also think when your quarterback gets hurt like that, it's a pretty bad injury to look at. I mean, he's obviously going to be out for the year. I think that does kind of heighten the sense of urgency from your teammates. So, yeah, he comes in, they all step up, they all start playing well. It was a good team win, but it's like now giving him the keys, starting out the game with him, I think that is different. Even though he did play the majority of the game, it is different. You're leading them at practice in the week ahead. So we'll see how he handles it. But I would definitely just give him another chance. But I know a lot of people are saying Baker Mayfield may be a good replacement. That'd be a good place to land in for sure. They're absolutely stacked.
Nothing but weapons. McCaffrey, Debo, Kittle, Ayuk. Yeah, they got nothing but weapons. But we'll see. I mean, for me, I got to see a couple more games for him. They got a big matchup this week coming up against Tampa Bay. So how will he look in that matchup against that defense? I think that'll be interesting to see. So, yeah, the jury's still out on that one for me. I got to see first. But I know they have a Super Bowl roster. But the game of the week, I think, this week is going to be Dolphins and Chargers. This is going to be a Sunday night game. Dolphins coming at 8-4 after their loss. Chargers are 6-6. Do you think this is a must-win game for Los Angeles?
Yeah, they've not been playing well this season, that's for sure. But I think the Dolphins, they'll respond from that loss of it. What's the condition on Tua? Did he get hurt in
He
that
had an
match?
ankle injury, but they said he should be playing.
Yeah, I mean they've got to salvage their season. What are they at right now?
Who?
Chargers
Dolphins, six
6
and
and
six.
6.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean it's do or die time.
yeah.
Then Dolphins have a 2-game lead on them, so that would be big for them for sure. They have not been playing that well, um, and yeah, I think they still have to play the Chiefs, right? So
No, no, no.
they're done.
Yeah, I think
They
they
already
played y'all
played them.
twice already. Yep. They still got to play the Raiders, who the Raiders are actually surging right now. They're 5-7, won 3 in a row. So that matchup will be interesting. Actually, no, they just played the Raiders. I'm sorry, they just played the Raiders. They lost.
That's right. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I'm tripping. Yep. So they beat them. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Craig. I think it's a must win for them. I'm not sure if it's a home. I think it's a home game. I'm not sure if it's home or away. I have to double check that. But yeah, right now they trail the Jets. The Jets are 7-5. They did lose in Minnesota this past week. But the Patriots are 6-6. They're 6-6. So yeah, I mean they got to pick up a win. This is a team that's in there. They're 8-4 at the Dolphins, so be interesting to see again another tough matchup for them. And then after that, I think the Dolphins have the Bills, and that'll be their last game of the season against each other. So
Do you think you guys are going to catch the Ravens?
good question. I like how you flip that. We're 8-4. They're 8-4. We have a tough schedule though. They kind of have, I'm not gonna say a cakewalk schedule, but it's easier. But again, you never know with division games. They still have to play the Browns again. They got to play the Steelers twice, and they got to play us again. So, like I said, I'd be interested to see if we can win, um, beat the Browns, and then we got Tampa Bay. So we have a tough schedule.
And then is Lamar Jackson out?
I think he's gonna miss this week, but they play the Steelers, so that's a road game for them. But I think we could, but we got to stay focused and continue to handle our business. But I think it's all in the realm of possibility, especially with the injury to Jackson, not knowing if he's gonna play this week or next week. But yes, I think it is in the realm of
That'll be
possibility.
interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, you guys are right in there.
yeah,
Dolphins, Bengals, Ravens, all 8-4 right now.
yeah.
The Jets 7-5.
You
I
know,
think it's just gonna be it'll be really close in the AFC for sure.
and you know what's interesting? We have a lot of tiebreakers. Like we beat the Dolphins this year, we beat the Jets this year. We play New England later on in the season. We've already beaten, I think I said Tennessee. We got a chance to have the tiebreaker against the Ravens if we can split with them later on in the season. We beat the Kansas City, have that tiebreaker, and we still have to play Buffalo this year too.
Interesting.
So we have a lot of tiebreakers already. So that kind of bows in our favor. It'll be interesting to see kind of how it goes. But yes, really quick, I think it's a must-win game for the Chargers. They go 6-7, and that's a conference loss. That wouldn't be too good for them. So we'll see what happens if they can get it together. And then last question is, are you buying the Raiders 3-game winning streak?
Well, it's huge for them to win that last one. I mean, they were when your quarterback's crying in the press conference. I don't want to make fun of them for that, but I mean, things were really bad. They were falling apart earlier in the season. Then that was a big win. They came back in that Chargers win, right?
No, they were up.
They were up.
Yeah, they were up like
I remember
27-13.
looking at this. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
they were
thought I
up
looked
the
at
whole
it. They
game
were,
for the most part.
well, yeah, I mean that's a big win. 3 games in a row. That's huge. I mean they were really down earlier. So what? They were 2-7 to start
They're
off.
2-7. Yep, 2-7. Then they got a game coming up this week. They play the Rams on Thursday night, and I think that following week or the week after they got a Christmas Eve game. I think they're gonna play the Patriots, I believe.
Yeah, I think as long as they keep themselves in the possibility of maybe being in the wild card conversation, because obviously they would have so much catching up to do, but I think it would make things exciting and then something positive to build off of. So I think it is commendable for them to kind of salvage the season and make a little run. That's it. I mean, anytime you string together three wins in a row, that's good for the morale. It gives them something to uh, keep trying to extend this week.
Yeah, and that's all we got for NFL, man. Is anything that any other headlines or major injuries or anything that stood out to you else?
Mm, what's the biggest game you think this week?
That's a good one. I think the Jets Bills is quietly a big
Okay.
one. They're gonna play 1 o'clock. They're gonna play in the 1 o'clock window. That's gonna be on CBS. I think that's gonna be a big game because if you're the Jets, they beat the Bills this year, right? Because the Bills are 0-2 in the division.
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. I think Graham mentioned too. His Bucks and Niners will be a big game too.
Oh yeah.
How will they look in that one? But yeah, Bills Jets for sure. Can the Jets sweep the Bills? That would make the Bills 0-3 in the division. That's kind of huge. So curious to see how they
That'll be
kind of
some
come
good
out.
ones.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. And I think the Sunday night game with the Dolphins and the Chargers is big too. What about you?
Well, I'm excited. There's not going to be college football to watch besides the Army Navy game, so I don't know. Bengals Browns for sure. I want to see that one. I want to see what Deshaun Watson can do in his return. So
Right.
it'll be interesting for
Yeah.
sure, especially after all the championship games.
No, I will be. And we appreciate you guys tuning in. This is another episode of Underrated and Overlooked. Make sure you go to scoreatl.com, Score Atlanta on Twitter, and follow us. All our content is going to be up on there, this episode, and much, much more. As we prepare you guys this week for the state championships, a lot going on. So we hope you guys tune in. They'll all be broadcasted on GPB. So make sure you tap in there, and we hope you guys have a good week.
Have a good one.